Hello and welcome to The Week, the show that takes a look back at the big talking points from across our region over the past 7 days with a helping hand from our studio guests. Coming up over the next hour, we'll be reviewing the headlines in the local papers, we'll be serving up a few leisure ideas for you, and we'll also be reflecting on the big stories brought to you by our Big Centre TV news team over the past week. Remember though, this is your show, so if there's an issue you think we should be tackling or a point you want to make, just drop us a line through the Big Centre TV website, on Facebook, or send us an email to theweek@bigcentre.tv. Helping me to cast an eye over this week's papers this week is a man whose face is no stranger to Big Centre TV. In fact, he's one half of our Saint and Greavesy style What's On team, Des Tong, and a man who knows how to get the most out of your money, Frank Cochrane from FSC Investments in Wolverhampton. Gents, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
We've started the last 2 weeks' shows with surveys which are painting our region in not the greatest of light. Last week we were talking about Wolverhampton being named the most miserable place in Britain. The week before that we had Walsall being revealed as a cultural desert in an oasis and missing all sorts of opportunities. And now this week Birmingham is in the spotlight for slightly better reasons, but this time they have been it's been described as the tattooing capital of Britain. We'll talk about whether any of us have been marked by this habit a little bit later, but Big Centre TV's news team went out to investigate a little bit more. Have a look at this.
Birmingham has been named as the tattoo capital of the UK, with almost half of adults having gone under the needle.
People come to get tattoos because it makes them feel great. It's a bit of an ego boost, just like every other modification, like a haircut, but this is just a permanent one. Some people just simply like it because it's an image that they like, and then others get it just to tell a bit of a story.
A total of 48% of people surveyed in the research say they had been inked, with most having between 11 to 15 different designs. So after that first tattoo, are we more inclined to have another?
Yes, just because of how good it makes you feel. They are pretty addictive. Other than the pain, yeah, afterwards you forget about the pain, and it's all about the artwork, really.
As more and more celebrities go under the needle, it seems that modern mainstream tattooing is being driven by our popular idols.
Yeah, and just generally when people post stuff on the internet, I suppose some stuff catch along, and then more and more people get that same kind of thing, really. I would probably say the Beckham tattoo is quite big, the one with the angel on the back, and I suppose that was because that was on TV as well, and probably the Cheryl Cole tattoo on the side of the hand has always been a bit of a big one as well.
But tattoos are not as permanent, with the likes of lasers to surgery and even injectable solutions.
Definitely less permanent, but it is still pretty permanent, yeah.
And have you seen an increase of laser removal for tattoos?
Yes, there has been an increase, just because of all the new stuff coming through that people can achieve and do, then they like to get rid of their stuff that wasn't so good.
The popularity of tattoos has increased over the past 70 years. Less than 10% of people born before 1950 have a tattoo, compared to 42% of those born in the 80s and 90s.
As the generations go on, more people get them, more people accept it. So I think it's just because the more people get them, the more people give up on trying to go against them, I think.
This is Monica Plaha in Birmingham for the Midland.
So what's the phrase? I'll show you mine if you'll show me yours, or something like that, isn't it? Now, I don't have any tattoos of any kind. Des, have you ever been tempted?
No, I had an ear pierced once, but it was a long time ago.
And regretted it or not?
Yeah, really. Yeah, don't bother with it now.
Frank, I've saved you till last. Go on, tell us a story.
I have a confession to make. Yeah, I've got 3. So I had my first one when I was 47. Which was following a major operation that I'd had, and I suppose it was a moment of madness, but it was something I'd always wanted to do, because my own godfather, who was an ex-military man, who was spent many years in the Navy, he came to our house regularly, could see all these wonderful tattoos that he had, and I always admired them, but throughout my adult life never actually got around to doing it. And then one day I just thought, you know what, just as a way of thinking, just do something different. I went and got the first one done, and what they said in the article was quite true. They are a bit addictive, but I'm finished now. I've just got a couple.
So have you got the Angel of the North across your shoulder blade?
No, being a Scotsman, I've got a thistle in the shape of a heart on there, and underneath that I've got a stag, and on the right hand side I've got a picture of one of our dogs. So they're all things that are very personal to me, but because of the work we do, even if we've got a short sleeve T-shirt on, nobody would know that I've got them unless I want them to see them. So
That's the difference, isn't it? Some people use them as a fashion statement, don't they? And
yeah.
Just makes you wonder what they're going to think when they get to about 50 or 60 and I don't know.
I just work to the basis that it's going to make it easier to identify my body when they find me.
I'm happy with my credit card or my driving licence. You know, that does the same job from my point of view.
You can lose a credit card, you can't lose these.
No, that's true. That's true. You can't be cloned either, can you?
No.
But celebrity culture, though, you know, it's talked about, and just the influence that celebrities have. You know, what they wear, the trends, their hairstyles.
It's very much, you know, it's led by. I think probably. He mentioned Beckham. Robbie Williams was one as well. You know, he was probably one of the first to have what they call the sleeve, isn't it?
That's
then
right.
all the footballers take it off, and it just becomes sort of everybody wants one then.
It's quite interesting when you actually get people's reactions to them, because I've never had a negative reaction, and that was the only thing that I was worried about because of the being over the age of 45 and doing a blue collar job would have been quite acceptable, but a white collar job it was like a no, you know. But I've always had a bit of a rebel in me anyway. So, but when I've been out and I've had a short sleeve T-shirt and people have seen them, it's more fascination. It's like, oh, well, can I look at what you've done? And even little old ladies that you would think, well, they're going to look at it and hark back to the old days if it was only sailors and prisoners that had them. They come up and say, oh, I really like that. Oh, is that your dog? And say, well, there's the one and there's the real thing. And they go, oh, that's pretty. So it's just a little talking point, really. It
used to be a case that it almost polarised people. Sort of older people would say, no, thank you. Younger people, go along with the trend. It's not quite as straightforward as that now, is it?
Well, the younger people have become older people with tattoos, so I suppose that's helped a lot. So
absolutely,
it's worked.
And it's a big business now.
But you're not tempted? Still not tempted?
No,
nor me. Now, let's talk about one habit, which is an annual habit, which I think has got worldwide, certainly nationwide acceptance, because there were poppies everywhere in Dudley this week, thanks to a project which is encouraging dozens of community groups to get involved in Remembrance Day craft campaign. Our news team went along to take a look at some eye-catching creations.
Dudley remembers. Over 2,000 poppies handcrafted by 50 groups across the region, from guides to church groups and those with disabilities. Everyone was involved in creating this touching display, now on show to the public.
The diversity was something that I really wanted to focus on. As a tutor, I wanted everybody to come to a workshop and be able to make a poppy, and that's why there are such a diverse range from, the paper, the glass, the knitted, the crochet. Just come along and make a poppy, feel confident, be part of that group and be part of the project, and everybody who came made a poppy.
The glass poppy is one of the favourites, so just how do you go about making one?
The glass one is from a Dip It Fantasy film acrylic resin, and so it is paint, which doesn't have any more smell than normal paint, so there wasn't a problem. And you make a wire frame for the poppy and you dip it. It air dries in 15 seconds and the results, as you can see, are absolutely stunning.
The project consisted of 50 workshops engaging over 350 members of the community to come together to inspire and educate.
In the old days, people used to get round a table, didn't they, and make things together. And that's sadly been lost, and this has come back again. And we've all got together and made something that we can be proud of.
Poppies Everywhere is part of the Arts Factor, an annual festival for adults and family learners to take part in.
Arts Factor is basically a culmination of a lot of our arts displays as such. So we all come together once a year to actually get a lot of the community groups actually involved in relation to actually performing arts and things like that. So it's actually a theme. Arts Factor was actually involved with it last year because the theme was 1914-18 war. So again, it's literally some kind of theme that we've actually pushed all the way through for the years for the centenary celebrations. Centenary commemorations.
The poppy became the symbol of remembrance after being the only plant to grow on the battlefields in the aftermath of the First World War, and the Mayor recognises the importance of involving young people in the act of remembrance.
The education side of keeping, as you say, the memories alive is absolutely crucial, and Sunday after next it'll be obviously Remembrance Sunday, and we're expecting a bigger kind of crowd than ever here outside the council building for Remembrance Sunday, and a lot of those will be younger people, which is wonderful.
The project reflects a community coming together to create, but also to remember. Lest we forget, for our tomorrow, they gave their today. Lois Swinnerton for the Midland in Dudley.
Now this is a campaign, isn't it, that ticks so many boxes. Obviously it's commemorating Remembrance in a really community-minded way. It's bringing local communities together. It's educating the next generation. There's nothing not to like about this, really, is there?
No. It's just such a wonderful. To me, it's always a wonderful sort of celebration. And I think we mentioned before, you know, I know there's been moves to sort of dumb it down, but it's something that should never be allowed to go away.
And you can see, I mean, we were talking just before we came on air about you know, certain local footballers who decide that they may or may not want to display the poppy on their shirts, and you see the strength of feeling about that. It is just, I mean, how to alienate yourself, really, isn't it?
Well, it's evoked a huge reaction. I mean, if you think about it, the whole ethos of the poppy is I think it's a thank you. It's a thank you to the ex-servicemen that gave their lives. It's to the families of those servicemen that have had to live without their fathers, grandfathers, brothers, sons, and obviously the ladies that have passed away in service as well. And I think once a year, it's just a nice touch if we can just take a step back and go, do you know what? I'm wearing that for a reason. That's just to say thank you to all the service people out there that have done their bit for the country to give us what we've got today, which is a free life.
And every year you see the number of surviving servicemen and women dwindling, you know, at the Remembrance services. Just reminds us just how important it is to keep the next generation and next generations informed about exactly what did happen, because as the time goes on, the more incredible it actually appears, doesn't it? You know,
if you ever
people
go
can't
to
relate to it.
the Arboretum at Arawas and take a walk around there, it's very sobering, because obviously you've got all the sort of the memorials there for the different regiments and the different services, whether it be the Army, the Navy or the Air Force. And you look at the number of people's names that are up there and you realise it was thousands and thousands of people. It was almost a whole generation that were wiped out. But then you turn a corner and you've got a new wall, and they're still adding names now from the current conflicts. And I think it's fair that we don't forget them, because the soldiers and people coming back from the conflicts that were involved in the Middle East, who, you know, these boys need our support now. And the money that we spend on these poppies and the things that we do, I think it helps them to reintegrate back into civilian life. And if we can do our little bit to make their lives better, then I don't see there's anything that you can turn around and say is wrong about that. It's all good.
And talking of all good and commemoration, there's a really nice story on the front of the Black Country Bugle this week. I don't know if you can see that from here, but Coseley is getting its stone war memorial after 100 years. And this is a really nice tale, because there'd been no stone war memorial to the men of Coseley who died in the First World War. Instead, in 1928, the old Coseley Urban District Council planted trees, and there's been a campaign going on, backed by the local History Society, to put a war memorial in place. To cut a very long story short, Dudley councillors, local councillors, have got behind it, and it is going to happen. And I mean, this is a case of people power being used for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be lovely to see when they dedicate that for people to turn out in their droves and really support it, 'cause I think that's a great thing. Beautiful to see.
Absolutely.
Great news.
Now then, Des, you've got a supplement right in front of you here, which says, came out on Thursday, and it says Christmas in Staffordshire. Question: how early should the build up to Christmas start in our area?
1st of December. It might sound bar humbug, but I remember getting off the train the other day and walking through Walsall, and the Christmas decorations were up. And, you know, I mean, it's becoming this massive commercial juggernaut. I just think 1st of December, there's a good chance you might have some snow, but let's confine it to then. I mean, you go abroad, it's the same. You know, that's what they do. If you go to Germany and places like that, I've been to Germany in December, and it's amazing. But it's really sort of concise. They don't spread it out. And you know, go and see Santa Claus in November. The kids have forgotten about it by the time it gets to Christmas. So no, it's
We seem obsessed with just building things up
Yeah.
for as long as possible, don't we? And then inevitably they become diluted and they lose their impact, and they irritate the bar humbugs among us.
It's also sad for the parents as well, because what it means is that the kids' expectation starts to build too early. Whereas if, as you say, Des, if you get to a situation where 1st of December, you've got 25 days to get everything in place, the kids start to feel it more, and it is more intense, as you say. But you know, if you're starting now, by the time it comes around, it's lost a lot of its glitter.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about Christmas after the break. Welcome back to the week on Big Centre TV. I'm joined by Des Tong and Frank Cochrane here, and we're talking about the headlines in the area from the past 7 days. We were talking just before the break about Christmas before we were rudely interrupted. I guess that was almost a sort of Freudian moment, wasn't it, being rudely interrupted, because we're saying Christmas goes on for too long, really. Yeah. I always thought with Christmas that you've got natural breaks. You had Halloween, which has obviously become massive now. And then you've got bonfire night and the bonfire parties that naturally tended to go on for a couple of weeks after that. There's absolutely no reason for the shops to even be gearing up for Christmas until the middle of November at the earliest. But I'm with Des. 1st of December.
Best to purchase, isn't it? It's sort of. I can hear you hear kids saying like, "Oh, can I have this for Christmas?" and I want that, and you're thinking, well, you shouldn't even know about it until another month or so.
It just spoils it, doesn't it? I think a little bit. Or
Well,
am I being humbug, Frank? What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I think you can always tell when Christmas is coming when all the Argos catalogues go missing. All the kids are done around that trying to see what they want. But it's right. It's pressure for people to spend money, and it just starts too early, and you don't get that real sort of that impetus when you know that Christmas is starting, and it just drags out far too long.
Although you can understand, can't you, because it's such an important trading period now for retailers. They put their success of the year is hinged completely on Christmas trade. Yeah. That there's a natural instinct to want to say, well, let's just start a week earlier, or a week earlier than we did last year, or a week earlier, just to try and beat what we did last time. But
what will end up happening is that they'll get to a certain stage where they realise that they haven't made the sales that they want to, and then halfway through Christmas you've got the January sales starting. So people are leaving it later to buy, knowing that there's a good possibility that if they do hold back, they're going to be able to buy the stuff cheaper within those 2 weeks before Christmas. It happened in the last 2 or 3 years. So, they're defeating the object of doing that, aren't they, really?
Yeah, absolutely they are. Well, from Christmas, which we all agree, I think is probably going on for a little bit too long, to something which is happening all year round. Have either of you ever been to one of these Comic Con events, where they get sort of memorabilia collectors together, either sci-fi films or TV fans, or they've become absolutely huge events. These have now. Some stars of yesteryear are almost going from one event to the next.
And they make I know 2 or 3 of them, and they make a lot of money. Yeah. I mean, you can, depending on the actual size of star you are, that sort of the scale of your photograph, from like £10 for a 10 by 8 to £50, and to sign it. I know I was telling you before, I worked with Michael Sheard, who was in Grange Hill, and he was in the Harrison Ford Indiana Jones. He was Hitler when they were burning the books.
And he signed his book for him.
Yeah, and he was saying that he made loads of money by going to these shows, and just people all queue up, and they're all there. David Prowse, and various people, and they all sign £10 to sign a photograph.
Well,
it's good,
the $6 million man himself, I grew up on the $6 million man, Lee Majors, is making his Comic Con debut when the show returns to the NEC in Birmingham later this month. It's a massive Comic Con in Birmingham. But if you don't know what a Comic Con actually is, well, Warsaw was a good place to find out, because it held its first ever event at the weekend, and Monica Plaha was there to meet some enthusiastic guests in, shall we say, some interesting costumes.
These fantasy characters were just a few of the thousands of people attending Warsaw's first ever Comic-Con.
The day includes over 50 traders' tables offering the chance to buy from the world of anime, TV, movies, comics and much more.
I am the Arrow.
I'm Deathstroke.
And how are you finding your time here so far?
I mean, it's fantastic. It's a great start to it. Yeah, it's certainly getting busier. So yeah, great rotation of costumes. Being able to see different people in costume, yeah, it brings a lot of variety. Yeah.
I'm little sister from BioShock.
How are you finding your time here? Are you having fun?
Yeah, it's lots of fun.
I've come as Jon Snow from Game of Thrones.
And how are you finding your time here?
It's my first ever Comic-Con. A culture like this, it's really fun.
British actors Simon Fisher-Becker and Ian McNeice, most commonly known for their roles in Doctor Who, were amongst their celebrity guests, signing autographs, getting in selfies and talking to fans. For Simon, this is his 70th Comic-Con.
We were having a real hoot, and it's an opportunity to meet the fans and to say thank you for my new bathroom. Every weekend there is one of these going on, but Mark Longman here, he really does produce the best ones. It's always a very friendly atmosphere. He manages to get the crowds in, which is always exciting because it's nice to be busy.
And for Ian, it was his first time in Warsaw.
Well, I never thought I'd ever come to Warsaw, so it's pretty cool, I have to say. I mean, good atmosphere. I mean, as always with these conventions, people in the most wackiest outfits, and there's some pretty good ones, pretty scary ones. This is Halloween, so we've got some pretty scary outfits here today, I have to say.
Mark Longman, organiser of the event, brought the Comic-Con here to bring together a community of like-minded fanatics, and I asked him to sum the day up.
Fun, proof that even the littlest towns can compete with the biggest cities. So while the people are here having fun, it just gives them an escape from everyday life. So I think it's a success on that level, and it's good to see families sharing an interest and enjoying themselves.
This may be the first time Walsall is playing host to the Comic-Con, but it certainly isn't the last. This is Monica Plaha in Walsall for the Midland.
We're certainly entering into the spirit of that one. Des, I'm told you had an encounter with some stormtroopers in Liverpool.
We did, yeah. We were staying at the Adelphi Hotel, and we were actually playing just round the corner. But what we didn't know, there was a Star Wars convention downstairs in the ballroom. So we got ready and we got to the lift, and the lift doors opened, and there was full of stormtroopers.
What do you do then? What do you say? What's the icebreaker there? What's the...
bid them farewell and wait for the next lift.
May the force be with you.
Went up with the Ewoks later on instead. Excellent. Now, talking of superheroes, there's plenty of them in that footage. Don't know if either of you saw this fabulous piece in the Express and Star this week. The real amazing Spider-Man, who was doing some quite incredible things outside their Queen Street offices in Wolverhampton. And Frank, you know a bit about this guy, don't you? Alan Robert, his name.
Yeah, I know a lot about Alan Robert because a guy who's a client of mine and who's been a close friend for a number of years, Brian Newbury, is Alan's agent. So we've seen the full sort of a story about Alan and some of his antics and some of the things he's got up to. I mean, this guy is absolutely incredible. He's only a tiny little French guy when you meet him, but he's got superhuman strength. And I mean, some of the buildings that he's climbed and some of these things that he's taken on board, you must have, absolute ice running through your veins.
Well, he says here, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the Cane Tower, climbing in Abu Dhabi, the Petronas Tower in Malaysia.
Yeah, well, Brian gets to go around to some of these locations with him. So Brian has a really great life trying to support this guy. And what he's done at the moment is, and I think this is what the article alludes to, is that Brian's actually brought him over here so that some people in the UK can actually come along and meet the man in person. He's doing a number of seminars, and it's a meet and greet. But I'd thoroughly recommend anybody that gets the chance, go and see this guy, because he's got an amazing story. He was very badly injured a number of years ago, almost told that he couldn't walk again. And now he's climbing buildings for fun. So he's just a really, it's a feel-good story.
Well, he is. He's appearing in Light, in Wolverhampton, yep. And Wolf Civic are selling tickets. So if you want to know any more about it, certainly worth going onto their website and having a look.
He's an amazing character, really good guy.
Now, changing the mood somewhat, as we've said, we're entering the busiest shopping time of the year. But do you know your rights when it comes to holding retailers to account if your goods are faulty? Well, a roadshow is currently touring the West Midlands to highlight changes to the Consumer Rights Act, and Monica Plaha caught up with it in Sutton Coldfield.
It's National Consumer Week, and to mark this, Birmingham City Council's Trading Standards officers are visiting community venues across the city to promote new consumer rights that came into effect with new legislation on the 1st of October. Since then, anyone who buys faulty goods will be entitled to a full refund for up to 30 days after the purchase. Previously, consumers were only entitled to refunds for a reasonable time. Digital purchases such as downloads and apps are also legally protected, giving shoppers the right to a repair or replacement.
The consumer rights outline your rights and the trader's obligations if you purchase something faulty, whether you're entitled to a refund, repair or replacement or a partial refund. It also talks about digital items, so if you've uploaded something or downloaded something and you've got a problem with that, or indeed just caused a problem with your computer, it talks about your rights under that circumstances as well. Obviously also talks about services, so if you've had some work carried out by could be a builder or a repair to your vehicle, it talks about your rights if you think the work hasn't been carried out to a proper standard.
The Consumer Rights Act says that goods must be of satisfactory quality based on what a reasonable person would expect, taking into account the price. Goods must be fit for purpose. If the consumer has a particular purpose in mind, he or she should make that clear, and they must meet the expectations of the consumer. The move is the biggest shake-up of consumer law in a generation. The Department for Business said the new act will make it easier for customers to know their rights and to shop with confidence.
Because a lot of it is similar to what's there, so people are still calling the consumer helpline and they're being told of what their rights are. I think over the next few months, the next year, we'll see how this develops, because what happens in the legal system, we have case law develops with new legislation, but that takes a lengthy bit of time, to go through the system. So if we have situations where consumers and traders can't resolve an issue and it has to go to like the civil courts and things like that, case law will develop over a period of time.
Pressures are now on businesses to review their practices and procedures to ensure they are fully compliant with the new legislation.
I think it's important for business to look at the new legislation if they haven't done so already. If they employ staff, they need to arrange training for their staff. Often this can be just been by simply reading the documents that are out there, but it is important that they're aware, because for businesses, customer policy, customer care is an important issue, and often they don't need us to tell us. They want to be upfront, they want to keep their customers happy because they want their customers to come back to them, and often businesses are at the front end of making sure their staff are fully aware of the requirements.
This is Monica Plaha in Sutton Coldfield for the Midlands.
Lots of food for thought there. We'll find out what Des and Frank make of that consumer rights issue after the break, and we'll also take a look at the latest headlines from the Big Centre TV newsroom. Don't go away. Welcome back to The Week with me, Carl Jones. I'm joined in the studio this week by Des Tong and Frank Cochrane. We're chewing over some of the local news headlines. Now, just before the break, we were looking at Monica's report about the Consumer Rights Act and the changes that have been made to it. Local roadshow is going around the area just to find out whether people actually understand what their rights are. Now, I'm throwing this one at you, Frank, first of all. This is right up your street, really, isn't it? How much do people understand about their rights?
I don't think people take that much notice until something goes wrong, and then it becomes an issue. And I mean, any sort of roadshow like this will only attract the attention of people who are, if you like, genuinely interested in finding out about it. Which I suppose is like anything, if you've got an interest in something, you're going to go along and find out. The government have obviously done an awful lot to try and make the consumers better off, a bit safer, a bit more protected. I mean, in my own industry, we've had regulations for the last sort of 25 years, and every year it just gets harder and harder and harder. Now, as with any regulation, you either embrace it and do your best to make sure you comply, or you're going to get into trouble. And I think what this legislation on the consumer side is to try and make people realise that if you're going to sell goods or if you're going to do a service, you have to fulfil your obligation to the customer to do it properly. And if things don't go right, they're going to come back to you and they've got a right for redress. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
Do you think, Des, I mean, because retailers know that members of the public are being encouraged to find out about their rights at roadshows like this, it actually encourages retailers to make sure they're ticking all the boxes properly, doesn't it?
It should do, but I think there's a lot of people that their attitude is they're frightened to go back at times. If something goes wrong, I'm not really sure about what my rights are, and it'll be okay. And so I think it's a good thing, because you know, the number of times that you see signs up and you don't really take any notice of them, and I think some retailers maybe take advantage of that.
It's like the classic moment that you sat at a restaurant, isn't it? And you've had the chewiest steak that you've ever been served, and the waiter comes over and says, "Everything right with your meal?" So you hear, "Lovely, thank you very much."
Yeah,
then they walk
yeah.
away, and then you finish your meal and you complain afterwards, don't you? We're not very good, are we, as a nation at sort of...
I've got a friend who's very good at complaining, and her attitude is, well, my money's good enough, so therefore, you know, why shouldn't the food be good enough? But you do see I mean, I don't for a minute think it goes on, but you do see, like, sometimes the comedy things where they do something in the kitchen when you send it back, and you would like to think that doesn't happen. I would like to think it doesn't happen.
I've just got a picture of faulty towers in my mind now. I'm not quite sure why that is. I'm not quite sure why that is. Actually, going off on a tangent, we'll come back to consumer rights, but just also remind you, there's a story in the Walsall Advertiser this week talking about the Food Standards Agency, which has set up this new website for naming and shaming organisations which are, shall we say, not playing by the rules entirely, where there's mice droppings found in the kitchen. More than 12 establishments in Birmingham, 3 or 4 in Walsall as well. That's a good thing as well, isn't it, really? You know, because it's transparency.
Yeah, because it has to be. I do feel, sometimes I feel sorry for these places because of where they are. And you know, I know there's a couple of really big restaurants in the middle of Birmingham that have struggled for years to actually contain the I think it was like vermin, you know, and they do their best. But then you do get the opposite, where you do see places where they're just lazy and they just throw scraps out, and that will attract mice and rats. And they do say, what is it, you're never more than 12 yards away from a rat wherever you are.
No, that's right.
Which is quite a worrying thing.
It's not a good thought, is it?
No.
The one thing about this whole issue of naming and shaming, if you go to a restaurant and they've got a sign up and it says they're a 4 or 5 star rated, you don't mind that, because obviously it gives you a level of competence in their hygiene standards. If they're getting to the stage now where some of these restaurants have got either no stars or 0 stars and they're forced to put that up on the wall, perhaps they may take it a bit more seriously if they are flouting it. But most of the point is, if you go in as a consumer and you see it's only a 1 star or a no star restaurant, are you actually going to give them your patronage? I don't think you are. I think you're going to walk away and find somebody that's better. So they're not going to survive. So
it's all part of this fact that people can actually go in armed with all the information they need about what any kind of business, not just a food
business. But it has to be obvious, rather than
all.
some restaurants now which just don't put a rating up at all. The only ones that do put them up are those that are doing well. I think if they get to the stage where every restaurant has to put a rating in a prominent position, then it's your choice whether you choose to eat there or not. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
No. Now, we talk about a consumer roadshow, but you've got your own roadshow at the moment, haven't you, Frank? Tell us about that.
What we've done as a firm, FSC Investment Services, we've always tried to approach what I do differently, because financial services is a bit of an unknown area to a lot of people. So we've tried to take a more of an educational role in saying to people, look, come along, have a look at us, let us explain some of the basics, things that people wouldn't normally sort of look at, and really it's like taking the bonnet off and saying, look, okay, this is how the engine works. So we did one last week at Aldridge at the Fair Lawns. That was very well attended. We had 20 odd people turn up to that one. We're doing another one on the 3rd of December at 2 o'clock at the Molyneux, and over the next 12 months we're going to run one of these about every quarter. And what we're trying to say to people is, look, there's no pressure, we're not going to try and sell you anything, but what we'd like to do is come along, ask any questions you've got of us, and try and demystify the whole thing about financial advice, because my attitude has always been, it's not a thing about cost, it's not about, you know, how much you've got to spend to get good advice. Everybody's got the right to good quality financial advice, otherwise nobody moves forwards. But if they think that they can't approach somebody or they can't talk to them without it costing them money, well, that's where we're different. We'll say to them, come along, have a chat to us, let's open the doors, come and have a look at what we do. If you like us and we can do business with you, then we'll tell you exactly how much it's going to cost you to do it.
And can people just turn up?
Yeah,
Up
there's no problem. We would prefer them to ring the office and just say, look, okay, we're coming, because that way we get a chance to know how many numbers they're like to turn up. But yeah, I mean, if it's a case of it's a last minute thing and they look and say, well, okay, on the afternoon of the 3rd of December, what are we doing? Nothing. Let's go and see what Frank's doing with his boys down at the Molyneux. Then come along. We'll make room for you.
Excellent. So now then, let's change the mood somewhat. We might not all have tattoos, but
I'm not going to get away with this
You
anymore.
see the link here. You see the link. Do we all play with Lego as kids?
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you remember Lego? Yeah, play with Lego. So we're on safe ground here. Well, there was Lego as far as the eye could see in Birmingham at the weekend when the Brick 2015 exhibition rolled into the city. Have a look at this.
Birmingham's NEC is welcoming lovers of Lego this weekend. Brick 2015 will see thousands of visitors pass through its doors to look, build and interact with the toy that has been a favourite for many since it was first created.
We've got millions of Lego bricks on the floor to play with. We've got Lego Guinness World Records that you can break. There's a map you can build your house on out of Lego. We have a museum of Lego artefacts and history, a big stage, loads of stuff for anybody that loves the Lego brick.
The founder of the event explained why Brick was set up.
Well, we set it up originally just because I'm an adult fan of Lego. I still enjoy playing with Lego as a grown-up, and lots of my friends do as well. So we decided to set up a show where we could show off our creations, which is still here as part of the show, but it's become so much more than that now. First off, you can get your hands on with the Lego bricks. We've got about 6 different pits, each with 1/3 of a million Lego bricks, all the same size and colour. So the only limit is your imagination. You can really get cracking and build whatever you like. But we've got lots of other brilliant things here to do as well. So Toys R Us are here with lots of the latest toys. Warner Brothers are here showing off Lego Dimensions and the new Marvel video game, which isn't out until January. So it's the world's first to have it here. And we have lots of huge Lego statues imported from the USA just for this event. The response here in Birmingham has been absolutely fantastic. As you can see behind me, the halls are crammed full of people. They're still coming in. So we're having an absolutely fantastic time. And I just can't wait to see what people are going to be building today.
The event featured exhibitors showcasing their creations. But why has this childhood toy become so popular?
I think the nice thing about Lego is, for starters, it's such a quality toy. It works really well. The bricks stay together really well. But it really is that element of imagination. There's nothing you can't build out of Lego if you've got enough time and enough bricks. So there's no limits to what you can do and no limit to your creativity.
Young visitors to the event enjoyed the chance to spend the day creating and using their imaginations.
It's just the simplicity and the complexity blend together really well.
I like that everything's Lego and that it's really fun because you get to interact with everything, and that there's competitions that you can win and that. I like it because you get to use your imagination about building Lego, and you can build like gigantic buildings and state buildings and stuff.
Well, I like it because they have like these big pits that you can make huge models with. You can make the estate building if you want it. But it would take like at least 2 hours. You have to explore the whole of it to know what everything is there, and like to see all the models. Like, yeah, if you want, you can see every single bit. You can always buy a souvenir.
Brick 2015 runs until Sunday. Lindsay Smith for the Midland in Birmingham.
I'm liking what one of them said there. Simplicity and complexity blended together. I think I've been trying to do that all my life, but I'm not entirely sure I know what it means.
Well, obviously Lego.
They're incredible, aren't they? Some of these creations that they come up with now.
Unbelievable. We had the one of the main guys on What's On, and he was saying that the first show that they put on in London had something like 50,000 people on the first day. You know, it's just such an amazing concept that just goes on and on and on and
because
on.
it's attained like a cult status, like Lego and Meccano maybe, and you ask yourself, when so technology has moved on so much, why has Lego stood the test of time, do you think?
I think kids can do what they like with it, that's why. And I mean, it's simple, isn't it? And it's not that expensive. I mean, it's not as if it's biodegradable and you've got to throw it away and start again. I mean, my loft has still got boxes and boxes that I bought for my son. And, you know, one day he may come and pick them up and take them home, I hope. But they're still there at the moment.
There's no sign of it slowing down. We've had a Lego movie, there's Lego theme parks. You can see from there the exhibition is going from strength to strength. So and you're never too old, are you, to have a dabble? You know, whenever you see the Lego kit comes out, you just can't help yourself.
Oh, here's a little secret. You know the Windsor, the Lego Lego Land in Windsor.
Yeah.
They had an attraction they called Lego Races, where you, as you know, obviously the kid went in and they designed their own car, and then you chose what thing you wanted to race on. I did all the music for that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Fantastic. Still going strong.
I
though,
don't
isn't it?
know
That's a
whether it's still going strong,
good
but
excuse to go down and have another
yeah,
look,
yeah,
isn't it? So,
yeah.
Excellent.
The main thing, are you getting the royalties?
Oh no. That's why I'm here.
Big Centre's guest has tentacles in places you don't even know. Now, the next generation of business entrepreneurs are on display at a local market over the weekend when it was taken over by teenage traders. Monica Plaha was there to see what it was all about.
It's National Consumer Week, and to mark this, Birmingham City Council's trading standards officers are visiting community venues across the city to promote new consumer rights that came into effect with new legislation on the 1st of October. Since then, anyone who buys faulty goods will be entitled to a full refund for up to 30 days after the purchase. Previously, consumers were only entitled to refunds for a reasonable time. Digital purchases such as downloads and apps are also legally protected, giving shoppers the right to a repair or replacement.
The consumer rights outline your rights and the trader's obligations if you purchase.
Now, this is not your ordinary Saturday market. This is Dudley's first teenage market, where all the traders here are aged between 14 to 19.
Teenagers from Dudley Borough have set up the 27 stalls here and started trading from 10 a.m. this morning.
We're selling goodie bags for the teenage market. We're representing the Peter Jones Enterprise Academy from Dudley College, and what we've got here is a variety of sweets, competitions that we can win.
And how are sales going?
At the moment, we have sold, but we will be starting selling, but it's gone all right, yeah.
And just your first experience of actually selling products?
Yeah, it's my first experience, yeah.
And how are you finding that?
I love it. It's actually brilliant.
And where is the money going to go to?
We've decided our charity, and the charity will be Make-A-Wish Foundation. So we will put in all profits towards them.
I'm selling some homemade crafts to go towards my trip to Africa next March. It's from tissue covers to hair bows to Christmas decorations.
And you made it all yourself?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to make?
Probably over 20 hours.
But is it all worth it in the end?
Yeah, it is, but worth it. I really enjoy it.
So today here I'm selling cupcakes, cookies, brownies. We've got a wide selection of cupcakes, including some vegan ones and gluten-free. So we go from pumpkin spice latte cupcakes to just chocolate cakes and vanilla cakes.
And obviously this is Dudley's first teenage market, so what do you make of the idea?
I think it's a great idea. I think people will be interested in it, especially as it's a teenage market rather than a normal market. It's got lots of young people trying out new ideas.
The Dudley Ambassadors Scheme organised this market with funding from the European Regional Development Fund and Dudley Council.
Well, it gives them the opportunity to showcase their abilities, what they are and what they're about, in a really friendly environment. I mean, people are walking around with smiles on their faces. There's people making cupcakes, making pickles and chutneys, people selling records. I mean, a perfect example, actually showing not only of building the new, but recycling the old and bringing it to a new marketplace. And young people are really showing the lead there. I mean, it's an excellent example. Like I say, it's Dudley at its best.
As well as seeing what each of the stalls have on offer, customers can also enjoy teen bands and performers.
I think they're amazing. I think what some of the teenagers can do is absolutely amazing. I'm really impressed.
I think it's brilliant. It really encourages them. It's great. I think there's a wide variety of stalls, and it's a good thing for the youngsters, you know, to get involved.
This is Monica Plaha in Dudley for the Midland.
Now, this is a great idea, isn't it? Because we talk all the time about youngsters being taught academic subjects at school that aren't maybe necessarily practical, or they don't really relate to the outside world. Getting a taste, if you want to be a business person, the best way of doing something is take a product, a service, try and sell it and see what happens, isn't it? And that's what they were doing here. So
it's a bit a mini thing that Alan Sugar does, isn't it? You know, that's what he.
It is a bit like a cross between the Apprentice and Young Enterprise. Those same sort of schemes. What's your experience, Frank, as to maybe how work ready some youngsters actually are these days?
Yeah, when we're taking on new staff, it's a challenge because to coin a phrase, we've often said that you get kids come through the door that are so heavenly minded they're no earthly use. They've got loads and loads of degrees, they're on paper highly intelligent, but they've got no common sense. And we're always looking for a blend of practical skills, common sense, be able to deal with the general public, be pleasant people to deal with. And you don't always get that.
All of those skills are needed when you go and take something onto a market stall in the middle of Dudley at the weekend and have to try and be a businessman, be a salesperson, be an accountant. You're being all of those things, aren't you, there? So
it's a good learning curve. But the one thing that I would throw in on top of that is one of the areas that we get involved in is when people come to us having already established a business that's successful. Nobody ever teaches personal finance in schools. Nobody actually goes to the trouble of showing them how to actually use the money that they've got. And a lot of the time they would get much further in their businesses if they took the time and trouble to get a bit of advice to say, look, this is how you reduce your tax liabilities, use your pension schemes, look at your national insurance contributions, look at your income tax, look at your corporation tax. Sit down and talk to somebody that's going to help you through. A lot of times people think it's their accountant that helps them. And accountants are very useful, but they're historians. So all they're doing is giving you the end result of, okay, this is what your trading's done, this is where it's got you, this is how much tax you're due to pay. There's very few accountants give actual physical practical advice to show them how to reduce the tax. You only get that from a financial advisor.
I think it's also one of the reasons, and whether you agree with this, Des, that why some people are maybe a little bit reticent or frightened to maybe switch bank accounts or go to a different utility provider because they don't understand their household finances. They don't take the trouble to look at them. Can you get household insurance cheaper? You don't.
A lot of people, I think, find it too much of it's a fad to do it, isn't it? I mean, the guy Martin Lewis, he's always gone on about, you should change it every month if you want. But I know, some friends of mine saying, no, it's such a nuisance to have to go through all that. But they could save themselves an awful lot of money if they did. What surprises me is the attitude of some of the major players when you actually say, I'm going to change. They don't care. I remember years ago.
Those are the ones you can get through to.
Not that many years ago, I should say, but going to a major organisation, I won't say it is, but it's to do with driving, and I wanted to change my insurance. And I rang up and I said, I've actually got a better deal. And the girl said, well, take it.
Unbelievable.
That's quite refreshing, to be fair, isn't it, in a way? But you think it's admitting defeat. Admitting defeat.
Yeah.
You'd like them to give you a bit of a fight back and
Well,
just
you
try and
would
keep
have
your
liked them
business,
to
wouldn't
say,
you?
you've been with us for 20 years, so we think we can probably do you a good deal. But no, it's just, we'll take it then.
And that's where you've been ever since.
Well, there's a phrase we're using that is that there's no pride in poverty.
No.
If people want to do better out of life, sometimes you've got to get off your backside and go and find it.
Gents, thank you for joining us. Time's got the better of us. That's all we've got time for this week. Big thanks to Des and to Frank. Don't forget, Bob Hall and the rest of the news team are with you every weekday, bringing you the latest headlines from across the Birmingham and Black Country region. We'll be back again next Friday.